Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube segment, I'm going to be giving you my predictions for the NBA 2014-15 season Western Conference, and I'm going to be going through playoff teams, predicted playoff teams for me, seeded 1 through 8. So let me get started. The first team I think is going to get the number 1 spot is the Oklahoma City Thunder. They've been close to the pinnacle and close to winning the NBA title in recent years. I think this is the year they could very well get it done. Point guard Russell Westbrook and small forward Kevin Durant. I mean, they're like a dynamic duo. They are one of the best 1-2 punches in the NBA, and they're going to have another year of experience playing together. And that, coupled with the slight decline or deterioration, I guess you could say, and as far as the caliber of play with the San Antonio Spurs, which I anticipate this season, should get the number 1 spot. Last season they were 5th in points per game, 106.2. They were 7th in rebounds, and they were 12th in points against average, which about 100 was 99.8. Now this is the team that they had missed Serge Ibaka missed the first 2 games of the Western Conference Finals last season, and I think maybe their outcome of that series would have been different, and OKC may have very well prevailed and emerged victorious if he had indeed played. This has been a perennial contender for a number of seasons, and I think they get it done this year and come out of the West. Now, the number 2 team. Don't be flabbergasted or in a state of shock, people. I'm going to go with the San Antonio Spurs. They added versatile, I guess you could say, they added Kyle Anderson, who was the 30th overall pick. I think that was virtually grand larceny. The question with the Spurs this season is, as the last several years, age and attrition. Is it going to catch up with them? It might impact them a little bit, I believe, with Tony Parker, Tim Duncan, and Manu Ginobili all being a little bit older and all over the age of 30. Tim Duncan 38 right now. But this team, despite maybe a slight decline from last season, will still, I believe, be very competitive, and they are the defending NBA champions, and they will be competing with OKC, I think, for the number 1 spot in the West this season. Now, the number 3 team, I'm going to go with the LA Clippers. It's safe to say that the Los Angeles Lakers have usurped their spot as the top dog in Los Angeles as far as NBA teams go. And the Clippers, once known maybe as the new kids on the block in Los Angeles, they play with reckless abandonment. I mean, they have Chris Paul and Blake Griffin. I mean, those 2 guys, talk about dynamic duos, very dominant players. You have Blake Griffin is even, based on some things I've heard on the news recently on TV, that he's going to be a little bit more, I get the feeling he's going to be a little bit more aggressive and assertive this season. So, I mean, and him being more assertive and aggressive than he is now, with the dynamic player he is, I think it spells trouble for the rest of the NBA. So I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Clippers at the number 3 spot. Now, the number 4 spot, I'm going to go with the Houston Rockets. Now, a lot of times Dwight Howard, who's on the Rockets, of course, gets knocked for having a predilection of not leading his team to go very far in the postseason. But people forget that he did bring Orlando into the NBA Finals. I believe it was 2009. So, I mean, this is a guy who is actually still very dominant player. I mean, he's still in the prime of his NBA career. He's a great rebounder, phenomenal off the boards. He can put up points. And when you have him and James Harden, you can make a lot of things happen. And I think with these players, I mean, they're obviously going to be a team to be reckoned with. And though they're not quite at the dominant level of, say, an OKC or San Antonio, there's enough proponents on this team to be very good. So I have them at the number 4 spot. Now, the number 5 team, I'm going to go with the Portland Trail Blazers. Now, Portland, did upset Houston last season. Houston had the home court advantage, but Portland has the team on. They have the chemistry, and this is a team that will, even though they exceeded expectations this year, the problem this season for them it's going to be hard for them to be much better because you have these improvements and other teams augmenting their talent and ability. They're not going to sneak up on anybody. They almost surreptitiously compiled a very good record and did and really did very well, better than people thought they would, even in the postseason. I was thinking Houston would get them with the home court edge, but that wasn't going to happen. Now, the number 6 team, I'm going to go with the Golden State Warriors. Now, Stephen Curry is phenomenal on that team. They have a great three-point guy. I believe he led the league in three-point baskets last season. He made a comment that was somewhat controversial. I think he said he was a better shooter than LeBron James. That remains to be seen. LeBron has some titles to speak of as well, but Stephen Curry is really a great player. He has prodigious talent, and in this case, similar to the Portland Trailblazers, the thing with Golden State, they have a very good team overall. They have their chemistry, but other teams have improved at the same time, and it's going to be very hard for them to get higher than the number 6 spot in this Western Conference. Western Conference is loaded again, and I believe is the dominant conference. Now, number 7, the Phoenix Suns. Now, the Phoenix Suns in recent years have not made the postseason. Now, arguably, maybe unequivocally, perhaps this team was the best team not to make an NBA postseason in history. They went 48-34 last season, compiled a great record. The problem is one of their knocks on them, I believe, was their defense. In 28 of 34 losses, they surrendered 100 or more points. Now, that's ignominious. They got to do better than that. They were ranked 21st in defense last season. They didn't have trouble putting the ball in the basket. They were 7th in points per game at 105.2 per game. Now, they added point guard Isaiah Thomas, and he will play an integral role in this team. And I believe this is a team. They went on a rampage at the end of last season. They won 12 of their last 16. What's imperative is that Bledsoe stays injury-free on this team. When shooting guard Goran Dragic and Eric Bledsoe started, the team was 23-11. But Eric Bledsoe missed 39 games last season due to injury. So I believe that's going to be a lot of their success will be predicated on his health. But I do have them getting in. I think they make the postseason for the first time, and I believe it's since like 2010. Now, last but not least, don't be flabbergasted in a state of shock, people, but I am going to go with the LA Lakers. Now, the Lakers, granted, they had an abysmal season last year. They were 27-55. They missed the postseason. They were number 14 in the Western Conference. However, this is a redemption season for the team. Byron Scott, even though his record is not exactly really great or superlative, he's had good record with teams that were not perhaps in the rebuilding process. I mean, he had success with the Nets, for example. This is a team whose success will be strongly predicated on the health of Kobe Bryant, who missed most of the season last year, which was attributed to injury. Now, they added power forward Carlos Boozer and point guard Jeremy Lin to the team. Now, neither of these players may not be astounding in the defensive department, especially Jeremy Lin, but they will give an offensive punch to this team. And I look at the problem with Jeremy Lin. What concerns me is that his point production has been lower each of the last 3 seasons. In 2011-12, it was 14.6 points per game. 2012-13, it was 13.4. Last season, it dropped to 12.5 per game. So it's dropped about a point, roughly, close to a point every season. So he's going to have to pick it up. I think Jeremy Lin's going to have to average at least 15 or 16 points per game, and Boozer at minimum maybe 15. If they can step it up, and Kobe Bryant is Kobe Bryant, I think this team should very well get the number 8 spot. This team still was very good offensively last season. They averaged 103 points per game without Kobe Bryant in the lineup for most of the season, but they were one of the worst defenses in the league in contrast, and giving up about like 109.2 points per game. Bryant did miss 76 games last year due to injury. And they also gave up 100 or more points in 51 of 82 games. That number has to improve immensely for them to get in the postseason. Well, anyway, people, let me go to my monitor, and I'm going to show you my picks on my computer screen, and we'll give a rundown real quick before I head out. So just hold on momentarily. Okay, here we go, people. You can see the teams I have 1 through 8: OKC, San Antonio, Clippers, Rockets, Trailblazers, Warriors, Phoenix Suns, and LA Lakers at 42 and 40. Let me go through my playoff predictions here, and we're going to look at first round: OKC over Lakers, San Antonio over Phoenix, Clippers over Golden State, Houston over Portland, OKC over Houston, San Antonio over Clippers. In the second round, in the Western Conference Championship, I have number 1 OKC over number 2 San Antonio. And last but not least, the NBA Championship, OKC over Chicago. I predict OKC will get that elusive NBA title this season. Well, people, that'll conclude this YouTube NBA prediction segment, and until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying, stay well.